Hello ladies and gentlemen and everyone beyond. I am BabyNoobCakes and this is PlayStation Plus free game reviews. And in this episode, we're going to be taking a look at one of the June 2020 free games, Call of Duty World War II. This is one of two huge AAA first-person shooter games we got for free this month. The other one being Star Wars Battlefront 2. But now, let's attempt to answer the question, as one of the free games of the month, was it worth it? Mechanics. Surprise, surprise, I bet no one could guess from the title of this game that it's going to be a first-person shooter set in World War II, and I guess if you couldn't tell from just the title, maybe you don't know what Call of Duty is. But I really doubt there's anyone out there who doesn't know what Call of Duty is. If there are people out there who don't know what Call of Duty is, I'd be very surprised. But if you've never played one, they're first-person shooters. There's an array of weapons to choose from shotguns to pistols to machine guns, grenades, rocket launchers, the works. You know, they have kind of everything. There are dozens of different guns to unlock and lots of different mods that you can put on them and different ways to change the loadout of your soldier whenever you're going into multiplayer mode. There are emblems and banners and camo and different uniforms and different paint jobs and different models of guns that you can unlock through playing multiplayer mode and from buying loot boxes. When starting up online multiplayer, there are a lot of different modes to choose from, which I won't go into full detail in this video, but they basically all boil down to some form of deathmatch, team deathmatch, or some variation of capture the flag or king of the hill. And this game also has one of the other staples of Call of Duty, the zombies mode, which pits the player against endless waves of zombies coming at them while they have to find some way to make their escape. This game also has a campaign mode that follows a group of soldiers as they fight in different battles across France and Germany during World War II. Art style. This game looks pretty good. Great, in fact. It's pretty obvious for the campaign that developers put in a lot of work into the motion capture as well as the facial capture. This is really what a AAA budget gets you in terms of smooth gameplay and facial animations. Looking at you again, Mass Effect Andromeda. What happened? Anyway, the lighting and textures really bring a realistic feel to the game, and the only hiccups I ever really noticed were that sometimes shadows would phase in from nowhere, but it really only happened to me a few times. If one of your priorities when looking for a game is how good it looks, and you're looking for a really good-looking game on the PS4, this is surely one of them. Sound. The game follows a lot of the cinematic trends of modern sound design. A lot of deep bass booms for explosions. A lot of tinny whining when you're too close to a grenade and lose your hearing for a moment. Each gun sounds different and unique, and it's obvious that the sound designers paid a lot of attention to detail. And the voice acting is really great. They brought in a pretty high caliber team of actors to portray the characters.
We'll see this through.
To the end?
To the end.
Beachhead secure.
And they're all believable. And even over the constant gunfire, the voices are pretty well balanced, which is a problem that plagues a lot of other games with this many sound effects going on at once. Replayability. The story mode of Call of Duty World War II will last you about 7 to 8.5 hours, but I was able to get through on normal difficulty in about 6 hours. So it really depends on what difficulty you play on. However, getting all of the collectible items will take you a bit longer. I was only able to find a few through my playthrough, so they take quite a bit of work to track down, and there are about 3 per level to find. As far as multiplayer goes, the servers seem like they're pretty full of people right now since the game is free at the moment, and I was able to find games pretty quickly. But I assume that that's probably because the game is free right now. But since the game is 3 years old, I imagine that community will shrink again over the next month or so, since I would guess that most Call of Duty players move on to the newest game every year and don't tend to revisit the old ones very often. But that being said, there are always dedicated fan bases for almost every game, and I'm sure you could get a few more years out of the multiplayer, but you'll most likely be going up against the dedicated few who didn't upgrade the last time a COD game came out. But the multiplayer modes are kind of designed for you to be able to just play forever. That's kind of the appeal here. And there are so many things to unlock and different ways to customize your character, it's possible that you could never get bored of this game.
Over here! On it!
Narrative. You start off the story mode of the game by watching a montage of different images that evoke the feeling of America in the 1940s. It shows off not only scenes of war to prepare you for what's to come, but also some looks into civilian life. And a lot of people showing up after they've been drafted. But oh, wait, there it is. Yep, that's telegraphed pretty hard. That's the guy I'm going to be playing as, right? Yeah, that's him. That's the main character. Yep. You truly start your story, though, sitting around a table on a ship with 3 of your fellow recruits on your way towards Normandy and D-Day. And after being called to action, oh, holy shit! It's wait, who is that guy? It's the guy from Transformers. Let me look him up here. Oh, okay, yeah, Josh Duhamel. Interesting. Okay. And I actually think I know your good friend Sussman here, too. Let me just IMDb this guy real quick. Yeah, there he is. It's Jonathan Tucker. Oh, he was in Westworld. Okay. Wow, it actually seems like they had quite a budget for... Oh, wait, right, this is a AAA title. Of course they were able to get famous people in here. Anyway, the game has 2 different modes of storytelling. It switches between the real-time dialogue between the characters, and then the character you play as sometimes narrates as though he's writing home to his wife, which is a nice touch, and gives his character some depth. But of course, every World War II game has to start on D-Day, because only once America joined the war was it relevant. Who knows. Afterwards, the game follows the troops as they push across France and into Germany. And if you were a fan of Saving Private Ryan, this game actually follows a lot of the same story beats, so it's almost like playing through that movie. My opinion. When I saw the 2 free PlayStation Plus games for the month, I was about as excited as I was to hear that the previous month had both been simulator games. However, I wound up loving one of those, so I had high hopes that I might find a game I actually like here. I've mentioned in my reviews before that first-person shooters are not my favorite genre, and that I'm pretty awful at them. This game in particular just reminds me once again how bad of a soldier I would actually be were there ever a draft in my lifetime. I would just end up dead, most likely. Or court-martialed for not fighting or something. However, I didn't have an awful time with the story mode in this game. I really liked how the story is broken up into little episodic chunks. There's not a whole lot of downtime, and it seems like the game has pretty consistent pacing throughout. Although I would have liked to see something other than just the American involvement in the war, and while you do get a small glimpse into the French resistance force, you don't really follow their story at all. But I also know that the story mode for Call of Duty games is not why people buy them, and I get that. The story mode's sort of always an afterthought, and it's not usually the main focus of the game itself. And I understand that making a campaign mode that showed off the English side of the war, the French side of the war, the Italian side, the Japanese, that would be way too much work, and is just unfeasible. But this is just another game that replays the same old story of the US's involvement in World War II, which the story is just worn out at this point, that's all. It would be interesting to see a different perspective on everything, but I digress. I liked the story mode fine. It was a fun little diversion for a few hours, but I have to say that I was only having fun for about 3 out of the 6 hours that it took me to finish it. I had a lot of frustrations with it. There were times where there were invincible enemies that no matter how many times I shot them, I couldn't kill them for some reason. There was a lot of times where I just didn't know where to go because the game doesn't point you in the direction that you need to go all the time. There were multiple times that I found myself stuck in an infinite loop of loading into the game and immediately being killed, especially during the mission where you have to throw phosphorus on the moving tank. That one almost made me quit playing. One other thing that really bugs me about the main campaign is that you don't necessarily have to kill all of the enemies that it presents you with. Most missions can be completed just by running forward and triggering the next step in the sequence of events. There were multiple points throughout the campaign where I would run ahead to try to get around to the side of an enemy, and then they would just end up all dying or running away or something like that, just because I had triggered the next event, and that made them all retreat for some reason, even though I hadn't really killed anybody. And then there were other times when I'd go around to the side of enemies, and everyone in a 5-mile radius immediately turned and started shooting at me, even though I was crawling along the ground and had been behind cover, and it felt like the AI was really lacking. They were either too smart or too stupid. I've never actually purchased a Call of Duty game before because I've seen enough footage online to know that I really don't like the multiplayer environment here. The thing that's always bugged me the most is you die after taking about 1 or 2 bullets. You can expect to be respawning all of the time in these games because you're so very fragile, just like a real human being is, but the problem I always have with that is that Call of Duty specifically, and I assume it's in an attempt to get rid of spawn camping, they just spawn you all over the map. They just spawn you wherever. And I'm sure that there are a few predetermined spots where this happens. The only way I could ever learn that is by playing a lot more of the game, but I don't like the overall gameplay loop, so why in the world would I ever try to learn the maps in order to better prepare myself every time I die and be ready for where the enemy usually should be? For me, this gameplay type is just too ridiculously chaotic, and I just don't have fun with it. I just don't. Because you're always going to end up getting beat by people who either know the map better, have more weapons unlocked that are better, have more mods unlocked, which makes them better, or just have more practice with the game because the matchmaking here is terrible. I have no idea why I was matched up with level 50s and a level 200. Yeah, he was on my team, but still, where is the matchmaking here? What is this? Another problem I had with the online was the zombies mode, which I thought I might actually enjoy a little bit, but I kept having problems with hit detection. Like I said, I'm not very good at first-person shooters, but there comes a point where I start to notice that my shots are missing when I obviously should be hitting. This may have just been low ping, or, bad connection, or bad server, or something, but this happened not only on the zombies mode, but sometimes during the campaign, too. So I don't know. I don't know. It seems like something is broken here. And it just, again, makes me not want to play this game ever again. Was it worth it? Well, I didn't hate playing the campaign mode or the zombies mode. That was kind of fun. But again, the campaign was 6 hours long. I'm done with it. I don't need to play it anymore, and I personally don't play multiplayer shooters like this because I don't like how little strategy there is. And I don't really prefer games where there's no counterplay, where you basically just die in one hit and there's nothing you can do about that other than respawn and hope that you can outplay that person the next time you see them. When I do play first-person shooters, I prefer things like Overwatch or TF2 because it's not just a kill fest, it's not just a deathmatch. There's usually some other objective that you're trying to complete, which Call of Duty World War II has different game modes with these objectives, but again, I refer you to my comment about getting hit once and dying. Because it's so easy to kill people in Call of Duty, there's still very little strategy beyond just going through and killing people. It's just you need to go stand somewhere too, or capture a flag, or you just have to do that after killing them. In a lot of other games, there's strategy beyond that, like becoming invisible, or, maybe I prefer fantasy games more than realistic war shooters, and that's okay. If you missed out on this version of Call of Duty, if you really enjoy Twitch shooters and really, really fast-paced gameplay, respawn timers, and kill streaks, and racking up points on the leaderboards, and customizing your guns and your loadouts and all of those other things, maybe this game is for you. But I feel like the thing with a lot of Call of Duty players is that they upgrade to the new game every year. They already are a few games beyond Call of Duty World War II, because this game released 3 years ago, and the online play is usually the draw for these types of games. Any big players of Call of Duty, even if they missed out on this game, they probably already own Black Ops 4 or Modern Warfare that have been released in the past 2 years. And Modern Warfare is probably the game that's getting all the newest updates, and having the most events right now, and being played in esports, and has the biggest community online at the moment to play against. While this game, on the other hand, probably has had a dwindling player base since Black Ops 4 came out. So who is this free game for? It's not for people who are already fans of Call of Duty, because they're most likely 2 games ahead. It's not good for fans of other competitive multiplayer games for the same reason. This isn't the most recent game, which, if you're into the competitive scene, you would definitely want to have. It's not for people who don't really like first-person shooters, because COD is not a good introductory first-person shooter game. And since we wound up with 2 FPSs this month anyway, my guess would be that anyone with PlayStation Plus that doesn't particularly like the genre in the first place would gravitate more towards Star Wars Battlefront 2, since there are more options in that game other than just being a soldier. So who is this game for? I'm not entirely sure. I feel like maybe it's for anyone looking to change franchises, as it's not a terrible introduction to the COD franchise, but for anyone who then does want to make Call of Duty one of the main games that they play, they're just going to have to end up buying the newest one anyway if they want to play with all of their friends or join the competitive scene. This game doesn't make sense for us to get. It's like getting Madden 2015 in 2020. It just doesn't make any sense. It's not the most updated, the main draw is the online component, and no one's playing it anymore, for the most part. I don't know. Maybe there are a bunch of people out there who love getting this one for free. But personally, I thought it was sort of a waste of time. The story mode was kind of fun for a little while, but in the end, it just reminded me why I don't like playing games that focus on what this game focuses on. But maybe that's for you to decide. Whether you agree or disagree with my judgment, get at me in the comments. Let me know what you think, and let's discuss if this month's games were worth it or not. Also, don't forget to go onto the PlayStation Store and download your free games every month. Because hey, if you have PlayStation Plus, they're free, and sometimes you will end up with a few gems.
This is for my comrades. This is for my son. This is for me. Vive la résistance.
Thank you for watching. If you liked the video, please like, comment, and subscribe. Do all the normal YouTube things, because I look at the PlayStation Plus free games every month. But until then, I'll catch you later.